Hello and welcome to Epicenter Bitcoin, the show which talks about the technologies, projects, and startups driving decentralization and the global cryptocurrency revolution. My name is Sébastien Couture.
And I'm Fabian Crain. Welcome to our 38th episode. Today our guest is Flavien Charlon. He's the founder of colored coin wallet Coinprism. So colored coins allow people and organizations to securely issue and trade real-world assets like commodities, stocks, bonds on the Bitcoin network. If you think of the kind of new Ethereum, etc. protocols, colored coins was sort of the first instance of something like that. They recently won the Global Startup Challenge at the Bitcoin Foundation conference in May in Amsterdam. And he's also he's also the founder of the Predictious, which is a Bitcoin-based prediction market. So he has 8 years experience in software engineering at Microsoft, building large-scale distributed systems. He graduated of the Ecole Centrale Lyon, where he received a master's in engineering. So it's great to have you on, Flavien.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Thanks for joining us, Flavien. So you're in Dublin right now, right?
Yeah, in Dublin, in Ireland, yeah.
So you've been based there for how long?
For 7 years, actually.
Oh, cool. It's about the time I got to France. So yeah, we'll get to talk to Flavien in a few minutes about colored coins, open asset protocol, Coinprism, all that stuff. First, we just want to mention a couple of things. So first of all, we mentioned this last week. Our regulatory affairs correspondent Sharon Jones is going to be at Inside Bitcoin's London on September 15th and 16th, doing some interviews for us there and recording some interesting talks. That conference is taking place in London, and so there are some very interesting talks there centered around crypto law, kind of Bitcoin 2.0, a lot of Bitcoin 2.0 focused stuff happening at Inside Bitcoin's London. And Flavien, you're going to be there as well, correct?
Yeah, I will be on the altcoin panel, so I will be there. Yeah. And if somebody wants to talk to me there or chat with me, you can contact me on Twitter at @Coinprism, and I will be happy to meet people.
Cool. And so we have a 10% discount code, and that discount code is EPIC-IBC14. EPIC-IBC14. If you want 10% off Inside Bitcoin's London, it'll also be on our SoundCloud page and on our show notes if you didn't get that. Also, I'm happy to announce that there is the first Francophone Bitcoin conference in Europe, as far as I know, happening in Paris on October 8th. It's called Euro Bitcoin, and you can find it at eurobitcoin.org. It's organized by the French Bitcoin Association in coordination with the Belgian Bitcoin Association and the Swedish Bitcoin Association. And it's a one-day event, so it's happening October 8th at the very prestigious Bibliothèque Nationale de France, and we have a 10% discount code as well for that. It's Epicenter, and there will be many talks there in French and in English. We've got some guests, some speakers already confirmed, such as John Matonis, Gavin Andresen, but also some very famous French politicians, intellectuals, economists, and it should be a great event. And so again, there's a 10% discount code if you want to go to that, and if you're in Paris, it's Epicenter. And that's
and you're moderating a panel, no?
I am moderating. I'm going to be moderating a VC panel, which is also going to have a startup showcase.
Cool.
Right. Yeah. So there's also going to be some guys. The guys from Maison du Bitcoin will be there as well, and everybody from Paymium, like all the French Bitcoin startups will be there. As well as some Americans. Josh Metnick from the Chicago Sun-Times will be there as well. Who else? Gavin Andresen might be coming. Haven't confirmed that yet, but should be coming. And Flavien will be there as well.
Yes, I will be there, yeah.
So, diving into colored coins. Flavien, can you give us a brief introduction as to what colored coins are?
Yeah, so basically with Bitcoin, what you can do, you can send essentially cash from one point to another through the Bitcoin network, and that's very convenient for that. You have low fees, and it's pseudonymous, and you don't have to go through any bank or any institution. It's like peer-to-peer. And basically the concept behind colored coin is to reuse this whole infrastructure to essentially send assets like real world assets through the same network. So instead of just being able to send cash or like Bitcoin, you can send gold, you can send euros, you can send maybe shares, etc. So that's the whole concept behind colored coins.
And can you kind of dive into what are some of the types of applications that we can use colored coins for?
Yeah, so there are quite a few actually, because basically everything that has a value in the real world can be represented as a colored coin. So I guess the first example is the example of shares, so like crypto equity. So if a business wants to do an IPO on the blockchain, they would basically just issue some shares represented by colored coins, and they would sell those shares. So like, let's say they issue 1 million shares and sell every share for $1, and that's a way to raise $1 million. And then that share is a token that you have on the blockchain. It's in your Bitcoin wallet, and then you can send it to somebody across the world, or just send it to your friends, and you can do that very easily, the same way you can send Bitcoin. So that's a very that's kind of the application that's very popular at the moment, because we see a number of IPOs. So the colored coin had a few IPOs so far, but I guess the biggest one are on different platforms like Counterparty, but it's basically the same concept. And there are more use cases. So one very useful use case would be to have US dollars represented by colored coins. So let's say a company could. So yeah, for example, one thing that's happening in Africa is that with M-Pesa, you have a phone company which is like they have like dollars that's represented by phone credit, and this phone credit is being exchanged as a currency. So this would be the same concept here. So let's say you would have a company which would issue credit which represent dollars, and then you would be able to use those tokens as real dollars, because you can always spend it at that company. So yeah, dollars, currencies, euros, etc., and also commodity like gold, silver could be represented by colored coins. And yeah, going further, you could represent also a percentage of ownership of a house, or or like a property like that. It's called smart property.
So I know colored coins has been around for a really long time. I think it's older than all these other projects that we've now seen getting a lot of attention. Can you tell us a little bit about the history of colored coins? Like, when did it first originate, and how has it developed since then?
Yeah, so I think it was described for the first time in a blog post in 2012. And originally, yeah, the concept was really what the name, what it sounds like with the name. So you take a Satoshi or a few Satoshis, and you tag them so that you can track them through the blockchain. And so you basically color not literally, but like you color some Satoshis and track them on the blockchain, and you can always recognize them. So after this blog post, I mean, there was a team, or like a few people who came together and started to work on a client. The NGCCC was the name, Next Generation Colored Coin Client, which was later renamed in Chroma Wallet. And so it's basically a wallet that you download. So it's open source. You download it, and then you download the blockchain, and then it works off the blockchain. But yeah, it was never really marketed very well, and it was never really also ready for production. So they always recommended to just use it on testnet. So I mean, people were, and it wasn't really ready for the end user, so it was taking a lot of setup. Was complicated to set up, so it didn't. I guess at this point, that's when it got overtaken by Mastercoin initially, before Counterparty existed. And yeah, so then more recently, we founded Coinprism. So we started working on that end of last year, 2013. And we took a different approach. Instead of going with a downloadable wallet that you run on your own machine, we took the approach of building a web wallet. So the same model as blockchain.info. So it's all web-based, but still we don't store the keys. The keys are encrypted with a password. and we don't have the password. So even if we get hacked, the keys are not leaked because it's the same model as blockchain.info. But the difference with blockchain.info is that we basically work with colored coins. So you can use Coinprism to issue coins, like colored coins. You can create your own colored coins and issue them, and you can send and receive the colored coins and store them as well. So yeah, we released that in May this year, and then now we're adding more features. So we've added the dividends feature, so you can send dividends to to people who own a specific coin. And also a couple of weeks ago, or last week actually, we released a new feature for crowd sales. So it's a convenient way to run crowd sales. So if you want to raise some money with a crowd sale, you basically create a color address, and then people send Bitcoin to that address, and then the feature on Coinprism will automatically return colored coin in exchange for the Bitcoin you send. So if you send 1 Bitcoin and the colored coins are 0.1 Bitcoin per colored coin, let's say, that's the price of the share, then you're going to get back 10 colored coin automatically from that. So that's a way to run a crowd sale campaign. And also we've just released yesterday actually Color Core, which is a downloadable wallet, which is also open source. It's only command line and JSON at the moment, but it's very convenient for integrating with a server. So if you want to build an application that uses colored coin, then it's easy to integrate with that. And it's compatible with the Open Assets protocol.
Now, can you kind of explain how a colored coin gets tagged as a colored coin on the Bitcoin blockchain? And perhaps that would be a good segue into how colored coins are different from other projects, like Brian mentioned, like Counterparty, Mastercoin, etc.
Yeah, so there are like more than one way to skin a cat. So there are many ways to implement colored coins. And the Chroma wallet actually implements a different way than us. So we have a more recent, more modern implementation, which kind of solves some of the issues that the older implementations had. And so now, but basically the thing that they have in common, all the implementations of colored coins, is that they work at the output level. So it's a very thin layer on top of Bitcoin. With Bitcoin you have outputs, and the every output has a value. And then colored coin adds, instead of just having a Bitcoin value, it also has an asset type and an asset value. So this is how colored coin works, and so that allows colored coin to work with unconfirmed transactions and SPV and all the nice things that come out of the box with Bitcoin. So on the other hand, Counterparty and Mastercoin take a different approach. So it's address based instead of being output based. So when you send something, it goes into an address, but there's no output representing that necessarily. So it's you basically have to parse the whole blockchain to see every transaction, every counterparty transaction, for example, and because every single transaction could affect the global state. And I guess another important difference is the fact that Mastercoin and Counterparty they use an intermediate coin, so XCP with Counterparty and MSC with Mastercoin. And some of the features of the protocol requires this intermediate coin, whereas with colored coin it's directly based on Bitcoin. So there is no potential for pump and dump because it's all based on Bitcoin. Or at least, or we could pump and dump Bitcoin, I guess, but it's not really, it's past that stage.
So one of the things I find really interesting about a lot of these projects, be it like Counterparty, Mastercoin, Ethereum, or many others, is that, they create their own currency that's in use on that platform. And of course, the powerful thing is that you can turn this into some a way to a monetization scheme, really, because the platform becomes used and the currency appreciates in value, and that also has allowed projects like Mastercoin and Ethereum, I guess not Counterparty because they burned the currency to issue it, but others have raised money that way in order to finance the development, and then people invest, hoping it will succeed. So I think this is a really powerful dynamic.
Yeah.
And it seems colored coins is a bit at a disadvantage. They're not having that. Do you view that the same way, or do you think there are also perhaps advantages to not having a currency?
Well, I think the advantage is for the user because you have to please both so for like Counterparty and Ethereum and all those alternatives, you have to please both the investor and the users. But at the same time, the money has to come from one side and go to the other one. So you can see that with Mastercoin. You know, they're kind of struggling to have the coin appreciate because you know the value has been going down for a long time, and they're kind of making more and more features not require any Mastercoin to use. So then the price is going down. So I think it's kind of a cycle. So I mean, if it works, it works. But if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And you know, Mastercoin is kind of showing that it may not be actually such a good idea on the long term, because you know it started very well. They raised a lot of money. The coin was very high, but then you know, as the value was going down for one reason or another, people started to abandon the protocol, you know, not use it anymore. So they're basically just using it so that it gives a value to the coin, but if the coin loses its value, they just abandon the ship and stop using it altogether.
But don't you think that may have other reasons? Maybe it just doesn't work as well. People abandon it and then the value decreases, in which case it's sort of, well, that's just an expression perhaps of the utility of Mastercoin and the prospects of it, rather than being intimately tied to it declining, or do you think Mastercoin having a coin actually contributed to it losing some of its momentum?
See, actually, so maybe I know many people don't share that opinion, but what I think is that I mean, it's kind of a fact that you can fork Mastercoin or any of those projects. You can fork it. So there is kind of an end game where if it becomes very successful, somebody is going to fork it and make it just a little bit better in one way or another, just because of the fact that it's not as expensive, maybe. And then people might just move, like the new users are going to want to use the new protocol because it's just cheaper and it gives the same features. So there is always this risk of forking, and sooner or later, if one of those protocols becomes very successful, then it will be forked. And you can see that even with Ethereum, actually, that there is this Ethereum thing coming up and using the Bitcoin distribution and this is giving kind of
well, I don't know if I totally agree with you. So I mean, I think one factor that's really important here is to what extent are there network effects? Because, you know, once there are a lot of, let's say, application services built on a certain platform, then maybe it's not so easy to leave. Because with Bitcoin, we really have the same situation, right? You could say, well, all those Bitcoins are in the hand of a few. Why don't I just fork the project, distribute Bitcoin more widely, and then everybody should switch over to me? Well, but it doesn't work like that, because Bitcoin has built up this mass and infrastructure and ecosystem. So it's very difficult to get people to switch over to something else, even if it may be slightly better. And I guess it's unclear. I mean, I totally agree the risk exists of that happening, but it may not, right? I think it's just sort of an unknown, and we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. The network effect is basically what is actually the actual value of the coin. So that's why Bitcoin is the best at the moment, because it's the most used, and this is why Colored Coin actually has a good advantage on that side, because it's using the whole network effect from Bitcoin. And you know, the other ones, they may not have such a strong network effect yet, and it's hard to tell.
Can you explain how Colored Coins benefits from the network effect of Bitcoin?
Yeah, so well, basically, it's using the Bitcoin blockchain. So, and if you want to make a Colored Coin transaction, you have to pay the transaction fees in Bitcoin, which is like the normal mining fees. And anybody with Bitcoin can use Colored Coin. So it's kind of, if you only have Bitcoin and that's the only thing you have, and you know there's a barrier to buying something else, then the only thing you can use, or the easiest thing you can use, is Colored Coin, because you don't have to buy anything. You just make a transaction. That's a little little bit different, but then you're using Colored Coin without having to buy any other coin.
Okay, so yeah, you have a lower barriers to entry because you don't have to go through an intermediate currency.
Yes.
Now, there's been some talk about different. So there's different Colored Coin wallets. There's the Chroma wallet. There's also Coinprism and others. And one of the criticisms has been that those wallets are not necessarily compatible with each other. And I think you may have mentioned this to me before when we met in London, that the Colored Coins implementation that you use allows for essentially shares to be issued that aren't necessarily matched to a certain amount of Satoshi. So if one Satoshi could be worth X amount of shares, whereas other Colored Coin implementations, one share is at least one Satoshi. And so that causes perhaps some problems moving forward to help this network effect of Colored Coins becoming more and more used. Can you comment on that?
Yeah, so basically we have this. We use a protocol called Open Asset, and so it's kind of building on top, building on what the previous implementations of Colored Coins have been doing, but improving in some areas. So the one of the areas is the one you're mentioning, and so with the previous implementations, it was like the asset value was linked to the Satoshi value. So if you wanted to issue, let's say, 100 million shares, you would at least have to have 100 million Satoshis, and this is one Bitcoin. So it becomes capital intensive at some point. And you could also make the argument that if Colored Coin become very, very successful, then you're going to run out of Satoshis at some point. So what we did in the instead of doing that, we're encoding the amounts directly in an op return output. So op return is a new feature that's supported since Bitcoin 0.9. So that's kind of news from this year. But using that, we can encode any number. So if you want to issue 1 trillion shares, then you can do that, and you only need the minimum output value, which is 600 Satoshis. So regardless of the amount you want. So
essentially attaching metadata to the transaction, and that metadata is what represents the amount of shares,
exactly,
regardless of how many Satoshis you're sending.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's interesting because I think I explained Colored Coins to people many times because it's sort of the easiest way to explain this Bitcoin 2.0 idea, right? Like especially the shares idea, right? So you take some Bitcoin and then you say, oh, this represents a company now, and all the inputs, all the money, the outputs then in the future represent parts of the company. You can go back through the blockchain and track that, etc. And I totally wasn't aware. I'd always thought of it as this, you take 50% of that original, the origin transaction, or how do you call it?
Genesis transaction.
Yeah, the Genesis transaction, and then that's 50% of the company. So I totally wasn't aware that people have moved away from that, or that you have moved away from that.
Yeah, so I mean, this is because the usefulness of so basically, what Colored Coins are, it's like a paper money basically, because you use something to represent something else, so it's like a paper money, and the utility of a paper money increases with the as the value of the medium decreases. So this is why now we have banknotes, because instead of coins, we have less and less coins and more banknotes, because it's cheaper to manufacture the banknotes because the paper is cheap, whereas with the coin, it's the metal is more expensive. So the paper money becomes more useful when the paper becomes cheaper. So this is why we're doing that. So you always only need 600 Satoshis, or the minimum that can be transacted, and then you can put whatever value you want on it. So like the ratio, the efficiency increases a lot more.
So I'm curious because we touched a bit on the differences between different protocols, counterparty, Mastercoin, etc., and Colored Coins. I'm curious, are there certain types of applications that can be built on Colored Coins that you think will be better on colored coins, and do you feel there are other types of things that perhaps would be better implemented on another type of platform?
So in terms of the applications, like everything is possible on every platform, but like the advantage that colored coins has compared to, let's say, Counterparty and Mastercoin would be that it's basically, it can use everything that the Bitcoin protocol can do out of the box. So things like SPV, simple payment verification, colored coin can do that. Also the payment microchannels. So this is, I think this was something that was first described by Jeff Garzik, but it's basically a way to have off blockchain transactions, but still trustless. So you have between two peers. So you can have like you basically, let's say I send, so Alice sends some Bitcoin to Bob, and then Bob sends some money back to Alice, and so on and so forth. So you can use the payment microchannels to revise that balance very quickly, so many times per second, and it's always trustless. So if one of the party bails out, then the other party still has the money. They have the signed transaction to commit the money, but then it saves a lot of the fees, because you only pay the fees once you want to commit the transaction into the blockchain, and also it allows you to revise the amount very quickly, so you don't have to wait 10 minutes. So this is the kind of things that you can do out of the box with colored coins, because it's based on outputs, and Counterparty and Mastercoin they cannot do that, because they're kind of rebuilding some of the architecture. So they only use Bitcoin as a timestamping mechanism, but there are many features that they sort of replace by using their own protocol. Yeah, so I mean, in terms of the applications, I think every application can be done on every platform, but then some platforms make it more convenient, make some things more convenient than the others. So yeah.
Okay, that makes sense to me, right? This micropayments channels, where I guess you would have, I mean, I always was familiar with this in the example of, let's say, using a Wi-Fi network and you're paying by the kilobyte, right? So you would keep sending the new updated transaction, and then if at any time you're bored, the other person could send a transaction that includes your payment up to that point. And it makes sense to me, right? If you have a similar use case using color coins, then that would be better, I guess, on that platform. Are there other applications that you feel would be better on, let's say, Ethereum? Because I guess one issue which Sébastien has kind of touched on is the maybe interoperability. If, like, let's say now we have different color coins implementations and they're not compatible, do you think that could be a problem?
So I guess they all fall under the colored coin name, because it's kind of fitting the same model. But in the end, there are still different implementations. So you could also say that Counterparty in a way is colored coins, and Mastercoin in a way is also colored coins. But it's all different implementations. So yeah, I mean, colored coin, I guess, is broad, so it's kind of encompasses more than one implementation. But yeah, none of like all those implementations, like Chroma Wallet, Open Assets, Counterparty, Mastercoin, they are not compatible. But I think eventually, probably there's going to be probably one or two implementation that are going to stay, that are going to attract all the liquidity, because the liquidity tends to attract itself. So the more liquidity there is, the more liquidity comes.
So is your hope that now other people are going to build colored coins applications as well, using the same implementation you've used with Coinprism, and that then those applications will be interoperable, and you can use the same colored coins on these different applications?
Yes, exactly. So actually, one of the design decisions, one of the design goals for Open Assets was to make it very simple to implement. And if you look at the specification, it's 6 pages long. So everything is described, including some examples. It takes 6 pages, so it's very simple to implement. Whereas if you look at Mastercoin, I think when I looked at it, there was, I think, 57 pages describing the protocol. So it's much more complex, and it kind of makes it impossible pretty much to get to make your own implementation. And we're actually seeing, I mean, I was talking to other companies who were actually making their own implementation of open assets. So it's so simple that they can, in a few days of work, they can go and implement it in their own language, in their own programming language. So yeah, the goal was to make it very easy so that it's easy for people to integrate and to build their own service. And there's no dependency to another coin, so they don't take a risk. It's not like they're betting on a specific coin. The only thing they're betting on is Bitcoin, basically. And yeah, so that's the goal. We wanted to make it easy for developers to integrate, and I think that could be also an asset for open assets.
And so, what's the? I mean, you've obviously talked to other colored coin wallet implementations out there. What are they on board with your open asset protocol or not? Like, what's the feedback you're getting from some of your competitors?
Yeah, so I mean, the team from Chroma Wallet, they said that they will look at making it compatible with open assets, and also there's the Iridis project, which also is going to support open assets. So yeah, it's I mean, there's yeah, I mean, it's probably going to that direction at the moment. It's hard to tell yet, but yeah, it's probably.
Are they contributing to the specification, or for now are they the only one contributing to it?
Well, the specification actually now is final, so that's also one difference with Counterparty and Mastercoin, where they have an always evolving specification. Whereas with open assets and Colored Coin, it's so simple that you can say, okay, now it's finished. We support everything we want to support, and we're not going to add any more features. That's all we need, because we kind of take the minimal approach. So. Yeah, so they did contribute. I mean, there was like back and forth, and a number of iterations on the protocol. If you look on GitHub at the history, I mean, there has been a lot of modifications and a lot of iterations on the protocol. But yeah, now it's kind of final, so people can take a dependency on it, and they can be sure that in 2 years or in 5 years it's going to be the same. And the code that exists today is still going to work in 5 years. Whereas with Counterparty, for example, they have breaking changes like maybe every 2-3 weeks. So every 2-3 weeks, everybody has to update their wallets, or they kind of go out of consensus, and it doesn't work anymore. So that's also a lot of maintenance for people implementing Counterparty, and that's something we wanted to avoid.
Could this also be a problem, though? Let's say there are some things that maybe aren't optimal in the current protocol. Would there be a way to change it in case some changes will make it more optimal?
Yeah, we could create a new version, so like a version 2, which would be different and would have different features, and version 1 would continue existing. So maybe the same way you can have HTML4 pages on the web and HTML5 at the same time, and everything still works, you would have the same. So you would have some open assets version 1 transactions and some open assets version 2, which would coexist, and that wouldn't really split the liquidity, because you would everything is still based on Bitcoin. So this is you do have this ability. Whereas again with Counterparty, if you create a new version and want to keep the first version in existence, then you split the liquidity in 2. So yeah, this is also something that's possible with open assets and Colored Coin in general.
Cool. Perhaps we can move on to talk about Coinprism. Can you sort of give us a little bit of a history on how you got started, how you got involved with colored coins, and your idea for Coinprism?
Yeah, so originally I was working on Predictious, and then I had this idea that you could have kind of options like American style options on Predictious, because so it's and there would be a collateral paid in dollars, so that simplifies a lot the counterparty risk if you do that. But then that requires people from depositing dollars onto Predictious. And we didn't want to touch fiat money at all. We didn't want to accept bank deposits or PayPal or stuff like that, because it becomes very complicated and there's a lot of risk associated to that. So then that's when we thought that colored coin would be a good way to achieve that. So with colored coin, you would have colored coin that represent dollars, and you would be able to deposit that on Predictious, and then you have a dollar balance, and you can withdraw that onto your Bitcoin wallet. So everything remains in the crypto world on the Bitcoin blockchain, but still you have dollars on your account. But yeah, we were still far from that. There was the Chroma wallet implementation, which was progressing very slowly, and there was Mastercoin at the time, but it was also very, I mean, I didn't like the fact that you require a separate currency. I didn't want to introduce dependency to a separate currency. I just wanted to stay within the Bitcoin, like strictly within the Bitcoin ecosystem, I would say. So that's when I decided to. I figured that maybe there was something to be done with colored coin to make it more user friendly, and so basically that's how we got the idea to build a web wallet. So it took a few months, and then we released the beta in March, I think. So it was testnet first, and then we went mainnet, and then in May, actually just a week of the Amsterdam conference, we released the final version, so the live version onto mainnet. And so we launched at this point, and then we had just we just had at the time the ability to issue and receive and send assets, but then we've added a bunch of new features since then. So like I was talking about earlier, the ability to send dividends, and also the ability to run crowd sale campaigns.
So is it just you working on the project, or do you have a co-founder, other developers?
Yeah, I have a co-founder. So we're two of us, just two of us. I'm the main developer though.
Okay. And is there a business model behind Coinprism?
Yeah, sure. So the idea is that Coinprism, the wallet itself, will remain free, and the tools that we're building, like the block explorer, is also going to remain free. So we released the block explorer in August. But the business model is to build an exchange, basically, where people will be able to list their coins. So if I'm a company, I want to raise some money, I can issue 1 million coins and list it on the exchange and sell, and let's say put a sell order with 1 million coin, like sell 1 million coin for $1 each, and then people can come in and buy, let's say 2 coins, 3 coins, 10 coins, and that's a way to make an IPO. And then at the same time, after the IPO is finished, people can still buy and sell the coins on a free market, and then we would take a transaction fee for that service. So the same way you pay a transaction fee to Bitstamp when you go and buy Bitcoin, you would pay a transaction fee here.
So I guess this may be a good way or a good moment to dive into something very briefly. I don't know to what extent you thought about it, but it's something I've been thinking about quite a lot recently, which is the whole legal side to this. Now, I know it makes a lot of sense to sort of say, oh, I'm going to issue my stocks on a blockchain, and I can pay dividends, and I can just IPO immediately. I don't have to wait until I'm like a $500 million company. It's cheap. You can avoid the whole regulation. But at the same time, there just seems to be no way that this is going to be is going to be accepted, right? Because it's just so obviously is against current securities laws in I think pretty much every country. So I'm wondering, what do you think is the use case for this? Who would actually do that? Because I have a hard time seeing, for example, regular startups taking advantage of something like that.
Yeah, so you're absolutely right. You cannot sell like equity, you cannot sell equity, because that would fall under the SEC regulations, and you would probably be in big troubles if you did that. But one thing you can do is sort of go around that and not offer equity, but offer a token that gives access to a service. So this is a bit like Kickstarter, you know how they're doing. It's not actual equity that you're buying, but yes, something like that. So, and this is actually something that Swarm was doing recently. They had an IPO where they sold Swarm coins. which give you access to more coins. Basically, I mean it's a more complicated model, but yeah. And then MadeSafe also did that, where you get coins which then you can use to access the MadeSafe network. So as long as it's not equity, it's fine. You basically have to, and this is, Ethereum has been very careful in specifying that in their IPO, saying that you're not buying any equity. Also, you need to make sure that you are not giving dividends, because dividends is it's a legal term. So you can do revenue share, things like that. But if it's dividend, then the word dividend actually has legal meaning. So you cannot call it really a dividend, but if it's a revenue share or interest, then that's fine. So there are some ways to sort of go around it, but obviously you need to be careful, and you need to check with the lawyer that you're doing something that you're allowed to do.
Are you aware of anyone basically creating or looking into creating legal entities that then would kind of issue some tokens that can be traded? I guess that would be another sort of roundabout, right? But that you would have them some sort of redeemable, or perhaps the company would have an extra contract that would give certain rights to the owners of these crypto tokens. I mean, I presume this would also be very risky from a regulatory perspective. But I'm curious if people are actually trying to do this.
So you mean people trying to issue actual shares, yeah?
Yeah, actually, well, so I guess another problem would be, even if you say I'm gonna IPO my company on colored coins, if there is no recognition of this in a court of law, of course, who stops the company then from just saying, I don't care anymore now, these are all worthless and the company is totally mine, and anyone who bought those shares, they don't have any rights. So to have... first of all, I guess you would have to address the SEC problem, or the problem of not selling securities. And the other thing is you'd have to somehow give people the ability to actually have similar rights that they have when they own shares.
Yeah. You're right, actually. And I think those two come together. So the reason why it's not allowed is precisely because there's no protection against people investing. So I think if it becomes legal, then you would have at the same time legal protection. It kind of goes hand in hand. So you cannot have any expectation that when you buy a MadeSafe coin or Ethers that you will have a return on investment. And actually, it's Ethereum actually was very good when defining that, because they have this long prospectus, and they actually clearly say that you cannot have any expectation that the coin is going to be worth anything, or that the software will even be released. And I think at the moment that's the only way to have a legal IPO in quotes. That's by saying that there is no guarantee that this is going to be worth anything. It's more like
and of course the Ethereum guys also, right? They defined it as a product. So they said, well, we're pre-selling a product, which of course is somewhat I think the people who actually bought it, they didn't think of it as a product. They thought of it much more as a share-like thing. But from a legal standpoint, of course, that's not, you can't sell that. So they phrase it as a product, as you correctly put it, and then they also say there's no guarantee. So yeah, it's interesting, I guess, how they found sort of a workaround. But of course, you're totally right. It gives you zero protection.
I think in the future, it's maybe in the next 5-10 years, when the regulators start to look into that, slowly, I'm sure that there will be some kind of framework. Now the question is whether it's going to be, it's going to make it impossible to do completely, or it's going to make it possible. But I think there is some possibility that in the future it becomes something that's possible to do.
Okay, I'm going to stop you right there, because we said that we were not going to talk about regulation today and legal matters. This is a topic that we've been covering. I'm kidding, but it's just regulation and legal matters always seem to come up in any discussion that we have with regards to this stuff. So.
Yeah. I mean, it's true, right? It is kind of an annoying topic at times. It keeps coming back. I feel this is, though, one area of the regulation that we haven't talked so much about, and that I think is sort of still ahead of us, in that there haven't been any statements and all, really, is the whole, there's been all this discussion on Bitcoin as a currency, but the whole idea of like crypto securities and all that's really still ahead of us. I'm sure we're going to have lots of conversations in the future about the legal side of that, but I agree that's going to be probably I don't think it's going to be that far down the line. I think this is going to start pretty soon. I mean, people know about this, and regulators, I'm sure we will see statements soon. I think we will see action taken against some projects as well. But yeah, let's not dive into that now. But
could you perhaps talk about some of the other aspects of Coinprism? So I'm on the website right now. I just logged in. One thing that's interesting is how you're handling the actual ownership of the keys. So you'll notice when you log in that there's no like forgot your password link. That's because your password is the passphrase, and essentially which encrypts your wallet. Is it used as a seed, or is it encrypting the keys that are then stored on your servers?
Yeah, for now it's encrypting the keys that are stored on the server, so similar to blockchain.info. But yeah, at some point we will support also HD wallets, so it may be used as a seed in the future. But yeah, for now it's just encrypting the keys.
Okay, well, I mean that's an interesting security feature. I think is I'm not a security expert, but I think is a good alternative to using a seed, which you may lose or you may not be able to remember to log in easily. So some of the other features when you first get onto the wallet, you have a main address and you have the ability to send coins and to obviously create your new color. The interface is really cool. I mean, I really like the user interface. It's quite simple to use. And I noticed also there's a block explorer. So can you tell us about the coinprism.info, which is a block explorer?
Yeah, so we've released that, I think in August, I think first week of August, so about a month ago. And this is a very straightforward block explorer, so the same as blockchain.info or blockr.io. Except the difference is that it will show you the colored coin transactions. So if you look up a transaction that was in addition to sending Bitcoin, if it was also sending colored coins, then you will see it on the page. So it will tell you so many gold coins have been sent. And same thing if you have an issuance. So if you issue like 10 shares, it's going to tell you so many shares have been issued. And there's also an asset directory where you can see the most popular assets on most popular colored coins. So it gives you a list, and you can click on any asset and see the details about that asset. So like the definition, what's the name, what's the contract. So the contract is kind of the text whereby the issuer explains what the coin is supposed to be worth. So if I'm issuing gold coins, I'm gonna say, okay, this is gold that I store in my vault, and my company is that company, and this is my registration number. And this is where you can find me. I'm located here. So this is basically how you make yourself trustworthy. And then you also have the ability to see all the owners of a coin. So because it's all public on the blockchain, if you select any coin, you can go to that page I'm talking about, so coin holders, and it shows you all the addresses and how many coins they own. So it's a way to see how many shareholders you have and what is the distribution of the coins.
That's really cool. I hadn't noticed that you can actually go and look up the ownership. Now, I would invite you all to go to coinprism.info/assets to see what the top coins are. The second one is quite interesting.
Yeah. So I'm also curious. I was playing around a little bit with Coinprism before and checking out the Explorer, etc. So when you click, for example, on the last block in the Explorer, it seems to show you all Bitcoin transactions. Is that correct, or?
Yeah, it's all the transactions in that block. And if there was one transaction that was transacting assets, you would see it here as well. But in that case, I guess the last block there was, or maybe there was, but it's in the later pages. You don't see it straight away.
Oh, so you don't like filter this and only show the colored coins or the colored coins on top or something?
No, we don't have this feature, although that's something we could add quite easily.
Okay.
For now, it just shows you everything for now.
So when you do the original one, when you say I'm gonna, I think it's called create a color, right?
Mm-hmm.
Does that involve making a transaction as well?
Yeah. So first of all, the way it works in Coinprism is that you define the metadata. So the metadata will be the name, the description, and then you can also upload pictures. And that metadata obviously is going to be maybe 1 or 2 kilobytes, so it's too large to be stored on the blockchain. So it will be hosted on the web, and then when you do the actual, so when you want to issue coins, that's when you do an actual Bitcoin transaction, and that's a single transaction which has, so it's defined in the protocol how it should be, and it basically says, okay, I'm creating so many coins, and I'm associating those coins with that definition, and then the way you associate it is by putting the URL to that definition file. Now that definition file, if you use Coinprism and you want to try it out, it's going to host it on our own server, so on Coinprism. But obviously, it's only an option. So if you have your own servers and if you're serious about your coin, you should host that file onto your own server and then put the link. You have a drop down where you can put the link when you issue the coins in Coinprism. So you put that link, and it's going to put your website in the blockchain. So then, it's going to put the link to your website into the blockchain. So then clients. So yeah, and then the whole thing is that the client, like Coinprism or any other client, will see that in the blockchain. They will see the link, and they will follow the link and see that file which describes the coin. So yeah, so it's basically.
Are you talking about the resource URL?
Yes, yeah, the resource URL, correct.
Okay, because I just created the Epicenter Bitcoin color coin, and the resource URL field. Oh, how is that possible? Yeah, and the resource URL doesn't seem to be an editable field.
So in that case, that's because you're editing it on Coinprism server. But when you issue, you can set. So when you issue, you have a selection. You can either use the definition that's on Coinprism. In that case, it uses that resource URL, or you can also enter your own URL, which in that case you can put whatever you want. But that's you select that at the point when you edit when you do the issuance transaction.
Okay, I see.
So do you see a lot of are there people developing applications on top of colored coin or already using colored coins issued through Coinprism to power some kind of projects or crowd sales or I don't know what?
Yeah, so far there has been a few crowd sales. So there was one, was called Clipped. So it's a hair salon in Australia, and they are opening new locations, like new shops. I think in Melbourne and Sydney. So they wanted to raise some money. So then they sold some shares on Coinprism, and you can see it in the asset directory. I think it's in the top 15 or something. And you can see like they sold a few shares, so they raised I think a few thousand, not much, because it was one of the first. And there was also a company who is doing vaporizers, so they also did an IPO using colored coins. And I think there was maybe one or two others, and so there are more coming in the next few weeks actually, but I cannot really talk about it right now because it's still confidential, but there are more coming.
And because vaporizers are at the limit of legality, right?
yeah, vaporizers, they actually only make sales in Bitcoin, so that's why they don't even have a bank account. So.
Oh yeah, of course.
More crowd sales coming, and also there's also a few other companies which I cannot really talk about, but they're also building services on top of colored coins.
Yeah, I was just looking at this Clipped thing. It's pretty cool. I like it, and I think it's especially great that you have some sort of brick and mortar simple business like that. As one of the first projects.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, I think we're coming to the end of our show. Where can we where can we reach you?
So you can follow us on Twitter, so at Coinprism. And there we also have a blog where we post our updates, so blog.coinprism.com. And yeah, that's basically it. And then if you want to check out Coinprism, it's coinprism.com.
Awesome. And I'll also link to the open assets protocol in the show notes and all the things that we talked about in today's show. So if you want to find out, you can find out on our website or on our SoundCloud page.
And yeah, thanks very much for joining us today. It was really interesting to talk about it. And I think I must say I see some more benefits to Coinprism, you know, like as opposed to the other protocols. I guess it would be really interesting to see how this is going to turn out, because there's so much competition in this space, so much activity, and yeah, and it's exciting to see what you're doing.
Yeah, thanks. And thank you for having me on the show.
Okay, well, thanks so much for listening in. We'll be back next week. And if you want to support the show, what you can do is you can leave us an iTunes review that helps new people find the show, and you can let us know how we're doing. You could also follow us on Twitter at Epicenter BTC. And of course, we very much appreciate donations in Bitcoin, Litecoin, Dogecoin, and so far no colored coins. But perhaps if Sébastien creates the Epicenter Bitcoin colored coin, then you can buy that and donate it back to us or something.
Yeah, why not?
And you can do that at epicenterbitcoin.com/tips. So thanks very much for listening, and we'll be back next week.